Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. For this review then we are going to introduce another brewery that I've never tried anything from before, and as I've told you before, I always enjoy introducing very new and kind of relatively unknown Swedish breweries actually. You can find some real gems amongst them. You know, there's about 600 little craft breweries here in Sweden these days, and a lot of them have come from home brewers starting to turn professional, and the standard of home brewing in Sweden is very, very high, and a lot of that comes as a result of the laws having been so strict here over the years. So make sure if you come across some of these really random little breweries, I would recommend that you have a go at their beers, because you can find some really good stuff actually, and that's one of the things I really love about doing this channel actually, is documenting some of these beers. But for this one then we are going to go to a little place called Blentarp, which is about halfway between me here in Lund and Ystad to the southeast. Very pretty town, Ystad actually. And we're going to have a look at my first beer from RajRaj Bryggeri, if I'm pronouncing that right. So this one is called the Lager Than Life. It comes in at 5% ABV, and I think you know what style this one is. By the looks of it, it is going to be some kind of Helles, German Helles style lager actually. It mentions on the back that there are some German hops in there. So yeah, really cool to see another Skånsk brewery popping up, and definitely nice to be able to introduce these guys for you here on the channel. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this review. I'd noticed a few of their beers actually in my local Systembolaget, and then when I saw this one released, I just wanted to go for it. As I've told you on the channel quite a lot recently, I've been going through a little bit of a lager phase, so when I saw there was a new Skånsk brewery that had that was releasing some lagers, I thought this would be very, very interesting. So yeah, definitely cool to introduce these guys to you here on the channel, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from RajRaj Bryggeri. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about RajRaj Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So RajRaj Bryggeri, as I've mentioned already, are based here in Skåne. They were originally founded back in around 2017-2018. I couldn't find the exact date for it, but they were based in Restånga, which is to the north of me here in Lund, and the original name of the brewery was Restånga RajRaj, if I'm pronouncing that right. This pronunciation is going to cause me trouble in this video, because you know, R-A-J in Scotland we say Raj, and that means, you know, a crazy person or someone that's very angry. So I want to call this brewery RajRaj, but I think it's RajRaj if we use the Swedish pronunciation. So yeah, Restånga RajRaj. But the two people behind this original project were Daniel Unnebeck and Christina Karlsson. Christina left the project quite early on though, and it was around the same time that she left that Daniel's brother-in-law Johan Dahlén started brewing beer with his three friends. So this was Linus Brodin, Erik Sunesson and Niklas Olsson, and they were brewing their beers in Blentarp, which, as I said to you, is about halfway between me here in Lund and Ystad to the southeast. But very quickly Daniel began to collaborate with the group of four, and the brewing operation was moved into a newly renovated place in Blentarp, and now there were 5 partners in the company, and they took the name RajRaj with them. So they've got two 200-litre breweries there from what I understand, and they've created a number of different recipes, although there seems to be a bit of a focus on sour beers from what I understand. But they started to release their beers through Systembolaget in February of 2020, and I think, yeah, I probably noticed these beers around, I think the first time I would have seen them was actually around June or so. I noticed them within the last kind of 2 or 3 months actually. So yeah, they started releasing their beers in Systembolaget as of February 2020. I'm not sure if maybe it was just in the very local area, probably you know, Ystad and things like that, the very small local shops. But as of September 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 50 different beers, and I think they are putting their beers to lots of different places around Skåne now as well. I'll be assuming that you can find these beers in the Systembolaget in Ystad, and you can find them both in the Saluhallen here in Lund, and I think you can get them along at Blentarp as well. I'm not sure about the one away up at Nova. Actually, I think there is only 3 in Lund, if I remember rightly, and I don't think I've ever been into the one at Nova, come to think of it. But yeah, these guys have about 50 beers, and for having only been around for, you know, a couple of years, maybe since about, I think it's about 2018 or so, since they started commercially brewing, if you like. For having been around only about, you know, somewhere between 18 months and 2 years, 50 beers is a pretty impressive output actually. But yeah, that was all the information I was able to find on RajRaj Bryggeri for the moment. Maybe I can add some more to that at some point in the future. We'll need to see how they go. But yeah, if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages, and you can find more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'll just have a little look at the artwork there. So you can see the polar bear is enjoying a hot summer's day. I wonder if that's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek reference to global warming and stuff like that. I wonder if that's what this is about. But yeah, the artwork on that is quite interesting. You can see a plain white bottle cap here, and on the back there you can see the RajRaj symbol, the goat with these almost like poison pen style artwork on it. But it says on the back here, so is that saying RajRaj Signa Meraltanan? So yeah, basically saying that the motto of this brewery is anything but normal. But this is what we like to do. We like to answer. So yeah, basically all the strange things that have happened this year. With we like to answer all the strange things that happen with maximum taste. I think that's what it's saying. So they're talking here about the all the crazy things in the beer world. So like fully flavoured stouts with cake flavours, or IPAs that are brewed with lots for hamburgers and things like this. But sometimes people just want to drink a normal lager, and this is what we often hear. So this was our answer. It was both yes. Our answer was sort of both yes and no. We drink more than just a lager, and we wanted something that was basically satisfying for all, and that was lager than life. So it says on the side here, this is made by their brewmaster Ninus, and he's made a long lagered, crispy and well balanced lager with a bit of Tettnanger and Mandarina Bavaria, very nice hops actually. Mandarina Bavaria, about 8% alpha acid, usually gives you a bit of orange of course, and it gives it a very nice to give it a smack. Do I say smack bearing? A taste bearing hop sort. But this is a really this is a really abnormal lager. This is our lager than life. So yeah, I think I've kind of translated that. There's a few words in there that are still beyond my Swedish vocabulary, but yeah, it looks pretty good anyway. But yeah, basically this one, a 5% sort of Helles lager beer that is brewed with Tettnanger and Mandarina Bavaria actually. So Tettnanger are the Baden-Württemberg hops, if I remember rightly. But yeah, 5% lager beer this one. Let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting. Yeah, I need to learn a little bit more brewing Swedish actually. There's one or two words in there were just a little bit kind of beyond me, but I suppose it will be written to be kind of funny, I guess. And you know, when you're learning a second language, it's a bit difficult sometimes to get the idioms and all this kind of thing. So yeah, I know that from having taught English to different people and stuff like that. So yeah, but I have to say this one should hopefully be quite interesting. As I always say, it is nice to introduce different lager beers to you here on the channel and different small Swedish breweries. So as you can see, this beer's poured a really rich kind of yellow colour. If we shine the light through that, yeah, it is a very kind of deep kind of goldeny yellow straw type colour. There's a solid finger, just under a finger actually, of a frothy, I would say that's a slightly cream coloured head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head, but I mean overall it does look very nice. And this is one of the things, you know, I've had some really good lager beers from Skåne recently. RajRaj Bryggeri are very capable when it comes to brewing different lager beers. I would recommend that you try the Fin Pilsner and the Skånsk Lager. If you get the chance, those are two beautiful beers. The Mullens Gold from Rocket Brewing Company is also a very nice lager beer actually. There's a great selection of lagers available here in Skåne now, so let's see if this one is going to kind of live up to those other ones actually. I can tell you something, it does smell pretty good, but in terms of appearance, this is pretty much what you would expect from a good lager beer, and I suspect this one will be kind of similar to, it smells a little bit like a Dortmunder, like a German Dortmunder Helles actually, a little bit more kind of hoppy than the more bready Munich lagers actually. So yeah, let's have a closer look at that aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, I think this one is a little bit more, it's actually fairly well balanced to be honest. When you're further away from it, it definitely smells a bit more hoppy, but when you go into it, it's got a little bit more of a kind of bready characteristic to it. So straight away, you do get that nice kind of white bready, pale malty quality to the beer. It doesn't smell actually as if it's got Pilsner malt in it, so it's definitely more of a kind of Helles, I think, than a Pilsner as such. And of course these are both kinds of lager beer. You know, lager beers, the general rule for lager beers is that it's low temperature fermentation. I always forget which way around, if it's top or bottom fermenting beers. I think it's bottom fermenting actually are the lager beers, the cold fermentation ones. But yeah, this one for me, it actually does smell, it smells a little bit more like a Munich Helles to be honest. And the Czech, you've also got the Czech lagers as well. So I mean, when it comes to lager beers in Germany, you have you've got the Helles, which is the blonde one, the Dunkel, which is the kind of brown mahogany kind of coloured one, and then you have the Schwarzbier. You've also got the Märzen as well, which is a little bit in between. It's more of a kind of amber lager actually. You've got a few other styles that are similar. I mean, you've got the, you know, you've got the two different varieties of Helles. You've got the Dortmunder and you have the, which is a bit more hoppy, and then you also have the Munich Helles as well. You've got the Kuhl, so that's not a lager beer. Technically, you also have the Alt beer, which is kind of, it's quite a light mouthfeel beer as well actually, but again, that's not a lager beer. German beers generally are quite light and drinkable, but in the Czech Republic you've got the Svetli, which is the equivalent of the Helles. You have the Letzak, which is more of an amber lager, kind of a cross between like a Vienna lager if you like, and also a Märzen, somewhere like that. Then you've got the Czerny, which is more like the German Dunkel, and then the Tmavi, which is like the German Schwarzbier, but the Czech ones tend to be a little bit more bready and kind of thicker almost. And this beer does have a little bit of that kind of almost Czech bready element to it. It does smell a bit Czech in it to a degree because of the smoothness that it has in the malt base, because normally with the German ones you would expect them just to be a little bit more kind of crisp and things like that, but that's what they're saying. This one is just marketed as a lager beer, and a lager beer, technically speaking, is anything that is with, if I remember, a bottom fermented yeast, but it's low temperature. The main thing is it's low temperature fermentation. But to me this beer does smell a little bit Czech in its malt base. It's definitely got that kind of nice Czech smoothness to it, breadiness, which I quite like. So yeah, definitely a nice kind of smooth white bready base to the beer. You do get a little bit of crispness in towards the back of the nose, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's got a lovely kind of white bready base to it. You will pick up a few kind of how do you say, you will pick up a few kind of biscuity, kind of sweet biscuity notes out of this one. I wouldn't say that it's quite strong and caramelly, but I would say there is a good bit of a kind of biscuity quality coming out of the malt base here, and that gets sweeter and sweeter the more that you smell of it. But other than that, the malt base is fairly straight up, nice kind of smooth, almost Czech lagery bready base to it, a little bit of biscuit in there. I think that sums it up quite nicely. On the hoppy side of things though, it is distinctly German. You've got that lovely kind of smoothness coming out of it. So for me, you've got a little bit of earthiness out of it, you've got some nice kind of smooth floral qualities there, and a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy note to the beer as well, which is quite interesting. You've got a few kind of appley and peary esters in this one, but you can also pick out that slightly more oily orange from the Mandarina Bavaria. This one, like I said to you, has Tecknanger in it, which if I remember rightly comes from Baden-Württemberg rather than Bavaria. I might be wrong on that, let me know in the comments section below if I am. But I used to live in Heidelberg, and I'm sure that's what the locals there told me, was that the Tecknanger hops were from that region. So This one, it's got that lovely smoothness to it from the German noble hops. If you try a load of these beers, German noble hops are very distinctive, but yeah, lovely nice grassiness, a little bit of a kind of slightly brighter floral note to it, but again still very smooth, and a bit of that light typical German earthiness. But yeah, a few kind of peary esters in there, maybe a little bit appley as well, but then you get that more oily, orangey note from the Mandarina Bavaria. The Germans are experimenting quite a bit with higher alpha acid hops these days, and Mandarina Bavaria was one of the first ones. You've got things like Hallertau Blanc now. What's the other one? You've got another hop that's been coming out recently called Akoya, and RajRaj Bryggeri, they actually used that in one of their beers recently. They're another brewery that are quite capable when it comes to the lager style. So you know, RajRaj, I've got a lot of good examples to follow around them actually. But yeah, take a little bit of time and have a smell of this one before you have a taste of it. For me, it's got a nice kind of checky, bready smoothness to it, but then the hoppy side of the beer is distinctly more German, and the fruity notes in this beer come across as quite nice and just smooth as well. So take a little bit of time to enjoy that. But the aroma of this one is pretty nice. So we'll have a taste of this now. This one is the Lager Than Life, a 5% lager beer. This one, a Helles lager, quite obviously. Definitely, probably not a Dortmunder. Somewhere it's either, this one's either I think somewhere between a Munich Helles and maybe a Czech Letzak, something like that. But this one comes to you from RajRaj Brewery in Blentarp, to the southeast of me here in Lund, in Skåne, in the south of the Sweden. So let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's definitely a nice drinkable beer, this one. You could easily tan a few of these. Yeah, this one is nice. I'd say that this leans towards the kind of smoother, bready end of the spectrum actually. And I like this, that you can go around these different breweries and have you know, different things like this. Like for example, the ones that I had from Hylia, they quite like their pilsners to be quite dry and things like that. They do like a nice kind of dry pilsner. There's been a good few pilsners come out from OO Brewing up in Gothenburg actually, and they like a dry pilsner as well. This one you can feel it getting, it comes in very, very smooth, and then it starts to get drier on the aftertaste, which is quite interesting. But this gets a thumbs up from me. This is a solid lager beer, this. Yeah, I like this one. I think it is. I think the malty side of it, it does lean a little bit more towards that kind of Czechy side of things for me. I think this one, it's definitely German on the hoppy side, but I think the malty side of this beer is more kind of, is a little bit more Czech, to be honest with you. And I like that about this. I like how it's got the blend of the German and the Czech side of things, and that's probably the advantage of being, you know, not being a German brewery, not being a Czech brewery. It's that you can kind of take the elements of both that you like. But this is a solid lager beer for me. As I've told you, I've been going through a bit of a phase of trying different lagers at the moment. I've been really enjoying them, and this one for me, I like this. This gets a thumbs up for me. I need to try some of their other beers and see what else they got, because I think they've got a few IPAs, and as I say, there's a few different sours and things in there, so I need to have a go at some of those. But this is just the one that kind of caught my eye because of the name actually. I'm not sure if this one did release this month in September 2020. I honestly can't remember, but I saw it on the shelf in the local shop, because if it's in my local shop where I order from, I can't order that as part of the box. So I can't remember if this is one that I just picked up and put in because I wanted to try the brewery, or if this is one that was released this month. But regardless, it is a nice lager beer, this one. My only complaint is I think this is one that needs to be in a 500 bottle rather than a 330, because, you know, I could sit and easily gulp this away. So yeah, let's try and break down the flavour then. Straight away with this beer, you feel that nice kind of smooth, white bready, pale malty quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. When you go towards the back third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of a kind of thicker, bready note to it. It's got a wee bit of a kind of grainy character there in the back too. You do feel a little bit of that kind of pilsner malty crispness out of the beer. So it wasn't very apparent in the aroma, because usually you can smell that kind of pilsner malt crispness but you can't really smell it in the aroma of this one. But as you move further forward into that middle third of your palate, this is where the beer really develops that more kind of check smoothness. But what I will say is that in the flavour, it is a lot crisper actually than the aroma gives you the impression of it being. But yeah, nice kind of smooth. In the middle of your palate, it does get distinctively more smooth, a good white bready quality to it there. In the centre of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a biscuity note. There's maybe a wee touch of a straight up caramel there, but definitely as you move out from the centre of your palate, you get a little bit more of a kind of biscuity quality coming out of this one, which is pretty nice actually. I like how that goes together. So yeah, this one for me, it does get a thumb up in that sense. Yeah, so it is quite smooth in that sense. And I guess the thing that probably does set it apart in that way would be the sweetness. So the sweetness is a little bit more German, I think. The sweetness maybe gives it a little bit of an almost Pils quality. It's very difficult actually to say exactly where in the kind of Helles sort of area this one is. The Pils and the Helles of course are distinct sub-styles, don't get me wrong on that. So I mean the sweetness that this beer has is a bit more of a kind of Pilsner character, but everything else about the beer is kind of Helles or Svetli. So it's difficult to say exactly where this one is, because it does have that kind of Svetli and Helles type breadiness to it, but at the same time it's got a bit more of the kind of Pilsnery caramelly biscuit thing in the very centre of the palate, so it's nice actually, and you do get a wee bit of Pilsner crispness out of the beer the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. I really like how it goes together in that sense. In terms of the how do you say it? In terms of the what do you call it? The hoppy side of this beer, it's quite nice again. I mean the malt base, I think, yeah, breadiness, a little bit crisper and grainy on the back third of the palate, middle third of your palate, a little bit lighter, and a wee bit of sweetness on top. I think that sums up the malty side of this beer quite nicely. Back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward on the side of the palate, you can feel it gradually gets a little bit more floral. There's almost a teeny bit of spiciness there on the front corners of the tongue. Then round the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind. On the front third of the tongue, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where the juicy fruity ester starts to push its way out of the beer, and I do like how that goes together. When you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, it's got a nice little bit of a citrusy note to it, which I do like. And as you kind of gradually move forward there, you do get a wee bit of that stronger citrus at the back of that front third of your palate. But then as you move further forward, you can feel it does get a little bit more kind of peary and appley and stuff. And then almost on the very kind of front edge of the tongue, you get a little bit of an oily area, and that's where the kind of oranges from the Mandarina Bavaria come out of the... That's where the Mandarina Bavaria kind of more oily notes come out of the beer. So I like how that, I do like how that goes together. Yeah, it does got a wee bit more of a kind of oily orangey character coming out of it, which I really like. Round the front curve of the palate, it does get a little bit more kind of grassy and zesty the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. So yeah, this one, it does have a wee bit, a nice kind of floral and zesty lingering note the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So for me, I really like how this, I like how it goes together. It's, as I say, it's got quite a nice kind of Czech, bready, smooth base to it, German hops, and then it's got a wee bit of a kind of Pilsnery sweetness to it actually. I think that kind of describes the flavour profile of this one fairly comprehensively, to be honest with you. So this is a nice kind of blend of a lot of different things that I like about lager styles. It's quite a nice kind of concoction, this one, I guess you could say, because it's got elements of everything. So thumbs up to RajRaj for this one, and it's nice to find another solid lager beer here in Skåne, of course. Like I say, we've got some really good examples. Julia doing some really good stuff. You know, the Mullins Gold from Rocket's a solid one as well. I can't think, have I had a Pilsner or a lager beer from Taproom actually? I honestly can't remember. But you know, there's some, and you've got some very, very good lager beers there. RajRaj Bryggeri as well are doing some interesting stuff. So definitely cool to come across yet another good lager beer brewery here in Sweden. So yeah, I'll need to have a go at some of their other beers and see how they come across. But mouthfeel wise, what would we say about this? This is top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied. The carbonation, I think, is very, very smooth in this one. It does have a bit of an oily mouthfeel, in fairness as well, which I do like about it. The malty side of this beer is pretty nice, I have to say. Yeah, malty side of this beer is pretty nice. It's got a nice kind of smoothness to it. There is a degree of sweetness in there. If we're talking about IBUs, I think this beer sits roughly around the 20 mark. Then you've got a nice wee bit of a kind of oily fruitiness to the beer as well. But overall, like I say, this one's got elements that I like of all the different kind of hellish light lager types actually. So yeah, this is a really interesting one. So thumbs up to RajRaj for this one actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this review. I think that's kind of described the flavour profile of this beer quite comprehensively. But yeah, definitely cool to introduce another brewery to you here on the channel that I'd never had anything from before. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. The Lager Than Life 5% sort of hellish type lager beer from RajRaj Bryggeri here in Skåne in the very south of Sweden. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from RajRaj Bryggeri as well. We will return to these guys at some point in the near future, no doubt. But thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Check out my social media, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon. At the Lager Than Life 5% sort of hellish type lager from RajRaj Bryggeri in Blentarp here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Slange, skål, cheers.